Welcome back, everyone, to the DGAF1 podcast with Chimochu.
And Dave?
And today, in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking to you all about the Haas car launch, the VF24 reveal, which was a single minute long,
Underwhelming.
underwhelming CGI render of the thing, not the actual car. It was mostly, I can imagine, useful for seeing what the livery looks like, which doesn't tell us that much. It was a different shape from last year's vehicle, though, so that does mean it's likely to be similar to what they're going to be shaking down in a few days' time.
Do you think it is drastically different? Because I mean, yeah, when you start picking away at looking at it, there's a bit with the side pod that does look a bit different. And the air intake over the top is slightly more rounded. But honestly, first looking at it, I thought they've just rolled last year's car out. I mean, what have they done? They just changed a bit of the bodywork, essentially. I mean, how much is actually different? Like, there's nothing about it that's amazing me so far. Like,
No, I think it is. It is. Well, it's not. It's a Haas. I don't think it was ever going to be amazing.
yeah,
The back end of it does look quite different. I think it's partly also. I think we're going to see this with a lot of the car launches, unless someone has found some crazy new way of doing things, like the old like Williams Tusk nose, that sort of thing. It's likely to be. They're all likely to be quite similar now because we're in the third year of the new regulations, so they're all getting. They're all slowly converging into a design, and that design is what Red Bull have been doing with the sort of swept down side pods at the rear, which is what this has that last year didn't. And I think it's interesting that it has it as well because obviously Haas practically shares a factory with Ferrari, and shares a load of parts, like as many parts as you possibly can. Haas is only just barely its own Formula One team, and it just does barely the minimum that you need to in order to be one. And so because they share rear suspension, gearbox and cooling, because they also use Ferrari engines, it's likely, assuming that what we saw is going to look like what they shake down, it's likely that the rear end of the Ferrari will look similar, will start converging towards Red Bull, more so than they did last year.
yeah. I mean, obviously, one of the biggest kind of changes at Haas now, Gunther Steiner getting the sack. Um, it kind of a shock, really, seeing as Gunther put the team together essentially with Gene's money. But you know, what was it? Gene said, I'm not interested in being at the back anymore. Um,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, okay, arguably they haven't had enough time since um, Gunter was fired, but the car doesn't seem to reflect that. Like, surely Gene's felt like this for a while, and if you don't want to be at the back, mate, fine, but we all know that more money equals better grid position. It's just a fact, and the car doesn't look fast.
No, it doesn't. And even with the cost cap in place, that's assumed, like, they all have the same amount of money to be playing with, theoretically, assuming that none of them have broken it. Again, Red Bull.
Those dinners are expensive.
They are. But all the other teams actually go to the trouble of building an entire car, whereas Haas take as much of it as they possibly can from Ferrari in order to save money.
Yeah, but you would think that would make them rapid, right?
You'd think so.
I can't build a fast car, but if I could buy one, it's going to be better than what I could make. So Haas have essentially gone, we'll buy a Ferrari, put our stickers on it, and yet they're still at the back. I don't understand how. And yet, look at what McLaren and Aston Martin have been able to do. They've been able to take a Mercedes engine, put it in their car, and be faster than Mercedes.
Oh yeah, but that's because they only share engines. They don't. They do as much of it as they possibly. Both Aston and McLaren do as much of it as they possibly can themselves.
I understand that, but surely then, if the more parts you're buying from Ferrari, the more your car is like a Ferrari. And even if it's more like last season's Ferrari than this season's Ferrari, any given season I'm talking about, not specifically this season, it's still going to be faster than, say, a crappy Williams or something, like that, or McLaren when they were having their dodgy years. So I never understand with Haas. Like, I understand they are arguably the most underfunded team, but how are they so slow, so repetitively?
Surely a lot of it is has to be the underfunding, but it's not. It's not even just into what goes into the car. It's also who they hire elsewhere. So their cohort of drivers, none of them were ever stellar. I wish that Mick had done a better job than he did and hadn't binned it so often. But part of the reason that
Well, didn't he split a car in twice? Split a car in half twice.
yeah,
Twice. But what does that say about Mick? And but what does it also say about Haas F1 cars? Because I don't think I'd ever seen an F1 car actually split in two so easily, and he did it twice in a season.
I think that's because that season I think was the first season after. Was it the first season after Grosjean's crash?
Yes.
It was, yeah. So that I think that some of the new rules that they put in place about how you build the cars make it so that they're designed to do that quite easily now. If you put the right,
Sure, but
I think it was just bad luck.
but Joe spun his car like 15 times and put it between a barrier and a tyre wall, and it stayed intact. It was a bit worse for wear, but it was intact. Do you know what I mean? And yet, Schumacher was able to split a car in half twice. This is the point I'm trying to get back to. Like, how I've never seen anyone break an F1 car in half.
Well, I mean, he is. I mean, he is German. If you're going to crash, do it properly.
Maybe that's what it is. You need a German driver to truly test what is essentially an Italian car. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't want to get hung up on it too much. But yeah, I mean, I understand your point. I wish Mick was still. Well, he's reserve driver for Mercedes, right?
He is, yeah. Should we talk about? Should we talk about the livery?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I know we don't agree on this, but I'm one of the people that is not a big fan of liveries that are all carbon. I'm not. I honestly, I wasn't a fan of the Haas livery when it was all white to begin with. I just don't think it's a very pretty livery. But they've put the barest amount of paint on this car, almost certainly because it's Haas and they haven't figured out how to hit the weight target properly, and any more paint would somehow slow them down further. The one thing I do like that they did this year, though, is if you look at the car in profile, they've in a weird way, they've hidden the halo, because side on everything is black except the halo that's white. So side on it looks like a sort of old school F1 car.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that halo still sticks out for me. I know what you're saying. I do. It's almost like you can see the silhouette of kind of a more traditional shape.
Yeah. I mean, we'll inevitably talk about it when Ferrari release theirs if they do the same thing. But it's like the Ferrari car last year, where they had, again, because they wanted to strip as much paint as they could off the car while still leaving it red. There was that weird kink in the airbox towards the back that looked like it looked like they were mocking us with what could be a smaller Formula One car.
I don't remember that.
It was strange. It was like if yeah, it was like they'd just drawn like 2004 car onto the side of theirs and hadn't bothered to paint the rest of it.
I'd never seen that. I'm actually looking at a picture of the new Haas car right now. I mean, yeah, maybe it is a little bit prettier than last year's car, a little bit less boxy. You know, those swooping side pods. Yeah, okay. Let's see. They try. It's always interesting when teams try stuff with the side pods. I mean, 2022, Mercedes, like they honestly thought that was going to work, the no side pod thing, and what in theory it should, right? Less drag, more streamlined chassis. It should be rapid, but
What I think they did, I mean, I'm not an aerodynamicist, but what I think they misunderstood was that the vast majority of the speed that you're going to get out of these new cars comes from doing the ground effect properly, and in order to do that, you can't have masses of exposed floor that could just wobble about, which is why they had such terrible porpoising. And it also meant that because they had to squash all the cooling into a smaller space, they ended up moving the cockpit further forward, which Lewis didn't like because he said he felt like he was sitting over the wheels.
yeah. I mean, is it? Am I right in thinking that basically the end of the porpoising problems really went away when they added those side pods back on? I know they'd improved it over time, but their problems with it seemed to linger on forever when every other team seemed to nail it, within like 6 races or so.
Oh yeah. That was it. It was partly that. It was also partly that I think so. So they mandated that all the vehicles be run slightly higher in order to help with the porpoising, which led to that fantastic exchange between Toto and Christian that came out on Drive to Survive. About do you remember that bit where Christian just said, "Well, just build your car properly."
Yeah, just change your fucking car. You change your car because the driver's been telling me the car is fucked. I love that scene. Yeah, it's good. He goes, I've got it printed out.
But like I don't often agree with Christian Horner, but I did then. I was like, if you're the only one struggling with it, then clearly this is a you problem, not an everyone else problem.
Yeah, I know. Look, I'm not going to lie. The last 2 years following Lewis and following Mercedes has been painful. It's been really painful. Especially Lewis to not... Like, he didn't win a single race in 2022. And that was a shame. And I honestly thought, well, he might not win the 2023 championship, but he'll win a race or two. But no, he didn't. Now, I suppose to be fair to him, Red Bull only lost 2 races in the whole season. Was it 1 as a team?
I think 2.
2, right? And both of those went to Ferrari.
I think so. No one else won, did they?
Right. So I mean, I would have expected that those race wins would have gone to Mercedes rather than Ferrari. But I suppose, if there's only 2 race wins up for grabs, it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing that Lewis didn't win a single one. But to go 2 seasons without him winning anything,
Mercedes have really not been on it. Like at the start of 2023, I would have assumed Aston would have been one of the winners at the start of the season. Obviously, they fell off.
Oh yeah, I mean, the start of 2023, they were winning. They were getting pole positions and everything, and they were getting regular second places. Alonso was getting pretty regular seconds.
Yeah, he was. I think third in the championship for quite a while.
But I do know someone who works for Aston Martin, not the Formula One team, but the main company, and they were saying to me kind of early in the season when all the hype was around them, like, we know we're not going to win. They were kind of like, we know we're not going to win, but we're loving the hype and we're loving the buzz, and it did drop off in the middle of the season and then start to come back towards the end. But I don't really know what happened there because the drop off seemed quite drastic. Do you know what I mean? When they were at their worst, say mid-season, they were pretty far down.
I think
did they drop off or did everyone else come up?
I think it was a case of everyone else coming up, but it was also a case of, I don't feel like Alonso himself was ever massively off the pace. There were a couple of races where they struggled more, but as a team they didn't do great because Daddy Stroll's little boy is just not. It's just not very good. Like sometimes he was qualifying 10 places below Alonso.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing with Stroll, right? Like, he is a billionaire's son. You can argue the seat was bought for him. I mean, the fucking team was bought for him. But at the same time, my position with Stroll has always been he's not that bad. Like, if you compare him to Nikita Hazespin, like, that guy got in because of his dad's money and could not drive a Formula One car to save his fucking life. You know, what was his first race? He got round 2 corners before he binned it. You know, whereas at least Stroll has, you know, had some pretty impressive moves at times and has been in the top 10, and it's more than you can say for some drivers who have arguably earned their way into Formula One more than him.
Oh yeah,
I'm always in an interesting position with what I think of Stroll because, like, yeah, he is a billionaire's son given whatever he wants. So he could decide tomorrow he wants to fly for the Red Arrows and he'd get a fucking plane. You know, but he can actually kind of drive.
He's not absolutely awful, but I do think and I mean, obviously this isn't what he's trying to achieve. He's just trying to give his son a race seat. But if you're Lawrence Stroll and all you care about is winning, is being the best team, that's not who you'd have in that team along with Alonso.
No. I mean, what was the thing that came up recently that his contract is up? It ends at the end of 2024. It's
rolling.
Up. It's rolling, is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure I saw a thing that said his contract was up for renewal, and like people were just laughing, like, "Oh yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with silly season with Stroll. Where's he going?" Like, can you imagine? I mean, how much of a baller move would that be if he signed a contract with another team? That'd be fucking amazing. Like, fair play. If you're like, sorry, Dad, I'm going to Haas.
Well, that would be brilliant.
That'd be I dare him to do it. Do a lateral move. Your dad will forgive you. He's Canadian. Like, go to Haas. It would be funny. It would be hilarious. Oh.
It would. He'd probably improve Haas.
He probably would, you know. He probably would, and he'd take a bit of that, you know, Aston Martin knowledge with him. Also, kind of interesting point, like, in other Formula One news, kind of trying to lead on from where, well, yeah, go off topic but stay on topic. Steak.
What was Steak done?
No, nothing. I'm just saying, like, the new name for Alfa Romeo.
Oh yeah,
Steak.
no, it's bizarre.
Yeah, but what I wanted to mention was, of course, yeah, you know, Alfa Romeo is no longer the main sponsor team, and it's now Stake. But although they're called Stake Formula One team, it's not Stake's Formula One team. It wasn't Alfa Romeo's Formula One team, right?
No, it's always still is for now. It is Sauber. Sauber is still in the name somewhere.
But they take a big sponsor and essentially plaster that over themselves. So the team got referred to as Alfa Romeo all the time. It never really got mentioned as Sauber, not that much. And my point with Aston Martin is we keep calling it Aston Martin, but is it really Aston Martin?
I think it is much more so than Alfa Romeo ever was an Alfa Romeo, and I'm saying that from the perspective of, for example, Lawrence Stroll doesn't just own the Aston Martin Formula One team; he also owns Aston Martin. And
does he?
He does.
I thought they were separate companies.
No, they're the same, and he's in charge of both. He owns Aston Martin.
He bought the Aston Martin brand. The whole, like, is he just a major shareholder? Or does he own the whole thing? Do we know?
I think he's CEO of the whole thing. I think he.
Yeah,
he's in charge of the whole thing. The only thing they don't do themselves. The only thing they don't do themselves yet is their own F1 engines, but in a weird way it makes sense that they're using Mercedes engines because lots of Aston Martin road cars also use AMG Mercedes engines.
Yeah, and they can work quite closely together. I suppose that makes sense. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I mean, how much fucking money do you have to indulge your son's passion by buying an iconic car brand for a laugh? Like,
A
that's
lot.
baller money. Like, I, I mean, I thought. See, what I thought had happened was he bought what was originally Force India, turned it into Racing Point, and then which was kind of a placeholder name, which they had for a couple of years, and then they brought Aston Martin in as kind of the brand and stuck it on the car, and he owned the Formula One team, and like Aston Martin were like a massive partner, like Stake are with Sauber. But you're saying that it
Oh
was
no,
more
so
like
he bought race. I believe that the order of events is he bought Racing Point first, well, Force
yeah,
India and then Racing Point, and then the reason it was still only called Racing Point is he was busy trying to buy Aston Martin road cars. Aston Martin, I think it's called Aston Martin Lagonda.
right.
So I think for a while it was owned by the Indians. I think it was owned by Tata for a while. So he bought that off them and then rebadged the Formula One team to the car maker that he now owned.
Aston Martin. Right. I didn't know that. There you go. You learn something new every day.
Yeah,
So anyway, the new Haas livery. We've gone
that
off
was
topic a little bit here.
we have. Yeah, it's fine. It's they've done this a few times before, where from the side it looks black, from front on you can see all the like red bits of MoneyGram. It looks almost like a
Yeah.
different car front on. It's the nose is a little bit busy with, I think, slightly too many sponsors, but this is Gene Haas we're talking about.
The guy
He's
needs money.
he does. He's very cheap.
I know. I mean, what? But the thing is, right? I always heard that a Formula One car to develop costs about 63 million quid. Right.
Yep.
But Gene Haas is only worth. I say only, but he's worth apparently $100 million, which is like
Yep.
what 83 million quid, 85 million quid. Something like
That's
right?
probably his personal wealth. It would be interesting to look at what Haas, or I think it's Haas Automation, is the company that he owns. That they make
They make drill
CNC.
bits, don't they?
Yeah, they make CNC milling machines. It'd be interesting to see what they're worth, because that, in a weird way, is sort of more like what Alfa Romeo were doing. But it's also they do the minimum possible amount of development on the car themselves. So Dallara, who are I believe Italian maker of single seaters, they make so lots of these other Formula Series have spec cars. I believe Dallara make quite a few of those spec cars. They're responsible for making all of them. And so they farmed out the making of the car to Dallara. They farmed out the engine and as many bits as they can possibly get to Ferrari, and then they just sort of pair them together and then give them to the two cheapest drivers they can find, and don't want to be at the back, and they wonder why they are.
I know. I mean, do you think firing Gunther was the right decision? No. Well, you got to going it goes back further than that because the team wasn't Red Bull. It was Christian Horner's team before that called. I know the team itself was Jaguar and then became Red Bull, but Christian had a racing team. I've fucking forgotten what they're called. Everyone's going to be screaming the name at me right now. But he went to Dietrich to buy a trailer, wasn't it? He needed to buy a trailer for a racing car, and the story goes that Dietrich met him at the ferry on the French coast, and they did the deal there, right? But and then a year later or so, phoned him and said, I'm in with the Red Bull brands. We want to do a Formula One team. Do you want to come with us? And essentially all the people that worked for Horner's original team was the foundation of building Red Bull off the back of the Jaguar team. That's the story I've heard. I don't know how.
Yeah, I think I've heard the bit. I think I've heard Christian saying that himself. And yeah, but Dietrich trusted him even when they weren't winning everything. Even when they've never really been at the back of the grid. They weren't great to begin with, but he always trusted him to do the job properly, to build the team, to hire the right people. He gave him enough resources in order to do it, and then he did. And if you look at the Ferrari model, when it worked, was when you had years and years and years of Ross Brawn in charge. As soon as you start swapping them over, it all goes to shit. And you can see that Alpine have been doing this recently. Aston Martin have done it more recently. Unfortunately, both of those teams did it to the same poor guy, poor Otmar. And
I follow him on Instagram, and it just makes me sad when he's posting pictures of him driving around in his Ford GT, and I'm like, mate, just sleep, just rest, mate.
and then Haas doing it now to Gunter, just trust him, and also give him the resources.
But that's the thing, you've hit the nail on the head there, right? You said it a second ago. He didn't have the resources. He didn't have the cash. I think if Gunther had... look at what he did when he had to take on Schumacher and Mazepin, right? Because he tried to spin it, ironically, as we want to take a chance on younger drivers. Other teams aren't willing to do that, but we're willing to say it's all spin. He didn't have the money, and Schumacher wanted a seat, as we all know, so he would have been a bloody cheap salary. It might have only been like $1 million a year or something, and probably that was only because of his name that he got that much. Some drivers staff on like 300 grand.
I think he brought sponsors with him as well.
Did he? Well, I know. Okay, so maybe he got a bit more money and that helped as well. But obviously the main reason for Hazespin getting a seat is because of his dad's money and that kind of... So Gunter's kind of hand was forced there. But what was it? The season before that, you had Gene saying, I'm not putting any more money into this team. Gene... it's his money. But you should double down. Say, clearly you need more money. Not less money. And then you put the pressure on a team principal to go and find cash, and having to find cash during a season and expect him to deliver results. And obviously the higher the result from 10th place up is a higher monetary gain in prize money and all that kind of stuff. You can't expect someone to do that. It might be frustrating, but go and get another loan, mate. You're going to have to. Or sell the team.
Yeah, sell it to someone who actually wants a team and is going to put money into it. Sell it to
Andretti.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Fuck it, yeah, just sell it to Andretti. Imagine an Andretti Cadillac team. That would be... their livery would definitely be better.
Yeah. But their car would have a very long front nose.
It would, yeah.
They'd be the only one that would turn the porpoising into a style.
Yeah, they put the engine on the wrong end of the car.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Is Audi coming into Formula One?
It is, yeah.
2026.
They're taking over Stake. So Stake is slowly going to become Audi. I think who did they take? Did they take Mike Crack off Aston?
Did they? Is he not? His name's always made me laugh hard.
It is. You have to be very careful about how you say his name.
Yeah. Do you think he would have changed that by Depot, or at least gone by Michael?
Yeah, Michael Crack, surely.
Michael Crack is better, or I don't know. I'm going off topic a little bit, but yeah, I mean, fair play to him for sticking to his guns. But he whenever he phones people up, surely they think that he's prank calling them.
So yeah, well, it's got us down that rabbit hole. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't Mike Crack. It was Seidel.
Oh, okay. So they
Yeah,
took. Oh,
it
so
was
he's got
yeah,
a.
Audi nicked Seidel off McLaren.
So is it going to be Sauber Audi, or is it going to
No,
be
it'll just
Audi?
be Audi. So over these few seasons, I think the idea is they're slowly buying more of the team, and they have an agreement with Sauber to do this, so that by 2026, Audi will be the majority owner of the team and will also be an engine supplier.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we're going
I
to
tell you what,
lose
that's going to be the
Sauber.
most comfortable Formula One car on the grid. You
Oh
ever
yeah,
driven an Audi? Oh,
yeah,
butter. Fucking beautiful.
yeah.
All right.
What would be great is if they actually, yeah, if the VW group just bought Haas, called it VW, and then just made it a cheaper version of the Audi.
There you go. Perfect. Or VW could buy Haas, but they own Lamborghini. So we could very easily get a Lamborghini Formula One team, right? Do it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, so it wasn't Lamborghini; it was Porsche that were thinking about going in as well, and their VW group as well.
I do like Porsche, but there's something about the idea of having a Lamborghini Formula One team.
That would be great. It would be weird though
How fucking
because
awesome would that be?
it would be even I think even weirder because I think like Audi and Porsche sort of make sense, but Audi and Lamborghini don't because Volkswagen owns Audi and then Audi owns Lamborghini, whereas with Porsche, Volkswagen owns Porsche, and in a weird way, Porsche also owns Volkswagen. It's
It's a weird incestuous relationship. Yeah, but I mean, what I'm getting at is if we're gonna have Audi on the grid, that's Audi versus Mercedes. That's two German car companies. Why can't we have Lamborghini versus Ferrari, two Italian companies? And before you say, well, what about Toro Rosso slash AlphaTauri? They don't count.
oh
Right.
no no no! I was gonna no, I was gonna say why not Lancia?
Because it's too old. It's a blast from the past. They make boxy cars.
A
Oh.
Lancia
Except for
F1
the Stingray. Except for the Stingray, that was a fucking gorgeous car.
Oh,
But
Fiat.
Fiat? No. Fiat F1 Punto? That's not going to work.
It would be great. Just think about the branding opportunities. Just F1 AT. It's great.
Oh my god, Fiat will fix it again tomorrow. They own a Formula One car that never gets off the grid. Fucking hell. Can you imagine? Fiat Formula. Well, yeah, but if we're going to get that mad and start speculating about random F1 teams, you can go Peugeot Formula One.
There was one. Do you not remember? Oh no, of course you don't, because you weren't around for it. No, it was so Alain Prost started a Formula One team in the late 90s. I can't remember whether or not he took over Benetton or if he had his own one. Yeah, Prost Peugeot.
Peugeot F1.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm googling it right now. Oh my god! No, okay, no, hold on. I have just found a picture of a design that someone's done of a modern F1 car. It's meant to be Peugeot Mulling 20. Apparently, there you go. Peugeot Mulling 2026 entry into Formula One. It's a grey and black car with like neon green bits. It looks like a Nike trainer. It's ridiculous.
I mean, to be fair to Peugeot, their more recent cars actually look really. I haven't driven any of them. I don't know how far they get down the road before falling apart, but they do look nice.
They look nice on their way to the garage, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so but I want to see the original. Is
Yeah,
it yellow?
It was blue.
It's blue. Blue, got it. Found
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's got a Yahoo on the side of it. That's how
yeah.
old
That was
is.
it.
Christ.
Yeah, Prost
No.
Peugeot. It didn't last very long.
Prost. Races 17, 0 wins. 0 wins. 2000. It was only one season.
Yeah,
does.
Yeah, I think I remembered it being like late 90s, but yeah, 2000 makes sense. Yeah.